However, I will say that from the start, the investigators noticed that something about her just felt off. They said that she didn't ask once about Keith's condition, not for an update, not to know if he made it through surgery, just nothing, which I'm sure not everybody grieves the same way, I get that, but you would think that a grieving wife or spouse or whomever, even a neighbor maybe, would say, did they make it through surgery? How are they doing? What's going on? Give me the update. I mean, most spouses in her situation would be begging to see their loved ones, clinging to any update that the hospital could give them. But for Darlene, it just seemed like clearing her name was kind of the bigger priority to her. She didn't ask about him once. So it was certainly strange enough that they wrote it down in their notes as they were talking with her. Now, before they could get too far into questioning Darlene, everyone had headed to the hospital because Keith's condition had taken a turn for the worse. And doctors told Darlene that it was time to make the hardest decision of her life, whether or not to keep Keith on life support. And 6 hours after that 911 call was made, Keith's body finally gave out. He was gone. Police were also there when it happened, and I gotta say, Darlene's reaction, it only deepened their suspicions. Yes, she cried. Yes, she seemed upset, but something about it just did not sit right with them. One investigator later said, quote, I never really saw her break down. She had tears in her eyes and mourned, but not like someone like that should have done. And believe it or not, right after Keith's death, that very same night, Darlene went straight back to the police station for another round of questioning. Now, this time, the detectives wanted to hear every single detail about what happened the night before Keith was shot, which, according to Darlene, it was a completely normal night. She told them that she had gone out with friends. She got home around 8:30 p.m. She and Keith went through their usual bedtime routine and went to sleep like always. But that sometime around 3:30 a.m., their youngest son, who, by the way, was just 18 months old, he started crying and wouldn't go back to sleep. All three of their boys, as a matter of fact, had colds. They were under the weather. So Darlene decided to just go lay with them in their room to kind of help them settle down, help all of the boys go back to sleep, and just kind of rest easily through the night. She ended up turning on the TV, and eventually they all fell asleep. She then said that at around 5:15, she woke up, but she rolled over and kind of dozed back off, which, let's be real, if you've got toddlers, if you've got young kids, every extra minute of sleep counts. I get it. Even if you feel like it's time to wake up, you'll turn over, go back to sleep. Hell, I did it this morning. But at about 5:45 a.m., she finally got up. And as she walked into the main area of the house, maybe heading to the kitchen or going for coffee, something like that, something just stopped her cold in her tracks. Because that's when she noticed that Keith's gun cabinet was completely empty. And she knew that all of the guns had been there the night before, and now they were just completely gone. So panic began to set in, and Darlene said that she started yelling for Keith, expecting him to come running. But he didn't. No response. So that's when she went into the bedroom, and that's when she saw him lying there in bed, covered in blood. Now, on the surface, her story did make some sense. It was tragic, it was horrifying, but it was believable enough. At first, at least. Still, it was odd, though, that she hadn't heard a thing. I mean, no gunshot, no intruder, no commotion, nothing. But what really made investigators pause was what Darlene did after calling 911. Or, more accurately, what she didn't do. She told them that she wasn't sure if Keith was dead or alive. So because of that, she just stood there, just waiting for the paramedics. And once again, yes, with grieving, with stress, with being under pressure, everybody reacts differently. But remember, a key point in Darlene's story and her background is that she was a registered nurse. She was someone who was trained to check vitals, perform CPR, to act fast when there's distress, when there's trauma, and when seconds, literally seconds, matter. Yet by her own admission, she didn't even check for a pulse. She didn't try to stop the bleeding. She didn't do CPR. She didn't do anything. And when the detectives asked why, she said she was frozen, in shock, and that her only thought was protecting her three boys, making sure that they were safe if the intruder was still in the house. And look, maybe that was true, but as the investigators were listening to her, they couldn't help but feel like something was not lining up. That Darlene's version of events from that night was missing maybe some key details, maybe more than just a few details.